So Azerbaijani president Ilham Aliyev seems to have balls. Real big ones, real hard ones, because what he did is he declared these three little pigs, well, Russian propagandists, to be put on the internationally wanted list. This is really like practically like the first time in the post-Soviet history since the Union collapsed. And it was really like a daring move. These three guys, what they were saying against Azerbaijan, actually it does amount to a lot. They were threatening the statehood of Azerbaijan. They weren't just threatening, not even like just a coup d'etat, which is going to change the president, okay, which in and of itself is already enough for a criminal case being opened against them. But they actually started talking about the entirety of Azerbaijan as a state, as a nation, to be dismantled. Like they said, Azerbaijan needs to be destroyed as a nation, just dismantled. We need to use like the ethnic minorities in Azerbaijan, like Talish, Lezgin people, for example, and we need to sort of put them against the central power and then dismantle Azerbaijan and then share the territory with Iran.
Мы должны для себя понять, что мы хотим сделать с Алиевым. Вот, да, ну и, соответственно, с алиевским режимом. Приручить, снести, расчленить. Тогда, пожалуйста, вот как бы талышский этот самый фактор, там, да, так сказать, съезд талышского народа, там, все вот это. Ну, вот, отдать Ирану, там, не знаю, значит, погрузить в гражданскую войну. Ну.
This in and of itself actually amounts to the criminal, to an article in the criminal code in pretty much any country of the post-Soviet hemisphere. Okay, because if you are threatening with again, if you're putting threats against territorial integrity, that's a big potential criminal case, because that's what's written in the criminal codes. Pretty much, you can't be doing that. You're gonna be put in jail. And this pricks, because they thought, oh, we work for the Russian state media. Well, it's probably a private media, like technically, but when it comes to media, nothing is really private in Russia, which is, we all know that. They were really spewing what's on the Russian elites or what's in the Russian President Putin's mind, really, when they were saying that. And now the president of Azerbaijan just declares them, just without any sort of preemptive talks, without any sort of diplomacy, or just sort of without basically commanding his own propaganda people, basically, people in his like state media or even private medias, to reply to these three pigs. He basically just went directly to the throat, just immediately attacked the throat and just declared them to be on the internationally wanted list, which basically means they can't really leave Russia a lot. Because there's, in any country that Azerbaijan is in good relationships with, all of these pricks are going to be arrested, pretty much. And rightfully so, because you can't be just saying shit. I mean, you can criticize. I don't mind just criticizing countries, but directly threatening the statehood, its existence, basically, is a big no territory. It's just a big no, So yeah, like you should be put on trial for that. There should be repercussions if you say that, really for no reason other than just your chauvinism, just because you really don't think Azerbaijan and all the other Soviet republics, especially the non-white ones, you believe that they just don't deserve their own countries, their own existence, their own statehood. You think that's what you actually think about them. And that's why you need to be jailed for that, okay? There's got to be some serious freaking consequences for you. And rightfully so. And I'm really happy that President Ilham Aliyev actually went in so far and just do that. And now some other Russian propagandists, the famous Solovyov is pissed for that.
Вы что считаете, что вот сейчас Азербайджан объявил 3 наших граждан в розыск? Мы на это как-то ответили? А вообще на визиты министра иностранных дел Азербайджана на территорию Украины мы как-то ответили? Нет. А задайте себе вопрос, а почему так себя ведет Азербайджан? Почему так себя ведет ряд других стран? А потому что они уверены, что мы проиграем эту войну. Они выбрали сторону. Они на стороне тех, кого не считают победителями. И на самом деле они это не скрывают. Они действуют из интересов своего государства. Я не собираюсь тут.
In one of his latest takes, he basically expressed his fear that he could be like next because he's been talking so much. I mean, he was just like wondering, like, is the president of Azerbaijan gonna do something against me too?
Что мы никогда не ответим. Ни Западу, ни им. Мы уверены, что мы... с такими, как я, они-то уверены, что они легко разберутся. У них же здесь до сих пор дикое количество агентов влияния.
He's questioning basically his own position. Like, there's 2 million Azerbaijani people in Russia. Some of them are probably agents who work for Aliyev. So, am I in danger? He asks. So, I mean, I'm happy that these propagandists are feeling the threat a little bit. They're feeling the tingling. And these 3 guys, these 3 little pigs that were basically declared to be on the watch list, on the wanted list. Now one of them, by the last name Chadayev, has already declared his resignation. He's basically either he resigned or he was resigned from the media that he was working for. So that president of Azerbaijan's move against all of them, it has been effective, seems. And by the way, that guy, that propagandist, his last name is Chadayev, which is just the irony of history, because Chadayev is a Russian, sort of a Russianized version of the name Chagatai. Basically, Chagatai is Genghis Khan's second son's name, basically. So, which, this means that this propagandist has Turkic roots. Well, a lot of people, a lot of the elites in Russia have Turkic roots. Like, for example, even the popular Karaganov, that guy, that bald guy, who looks like a typical Hollywood villain from Russia or something. Even this guy, he just keeps sort of claiming that Russia needs to use its nuclear arsenal, at least let's just send a few bombs against European capitals, and then we will put them in the right order, sort of. Yeah, this guy, like Karaganov, his last name is literally, it literally means like Black Khan, like Kara Khan. His last name is derived from that. Okay, so he also has like Tatar roots. And that guy, propagandist, also has like Chadayev. He also has like Tatar roots, Turkic roots. But I mean, not that it really matters nowadays. But still, it's just the irony of history. When you carry that names and you're against a Turkic state, you're really hateful towards one of the Turkic states. Basically, which has some relationship to your ancestral sort of lineage, right? Just so weird, the irony of history. But anyway, I'm happy because the president of Azerbaijan really has like balls, okay? Because our president, unfortunately, has been way more diplomatic. Well, to some part, I would say understandably, but then also I think he should also file some criminal sort of cases against them, because Russian propagandists have been talking way more shit against Kazakhstan. Well, because we're like a much larger country and sort of politically, sort of slightly more important, at least up to now we have been. So there have been way more talks against Kazakhstan, I would say. Well, I mean, they still were talking shit against like all the other countries, Azerbaijan included, but Kazakhstan, I think it's just because it's big and it has like a huge border with Russia, like the longest border, interstate border in the entire world. So the shit that they were talking against Kazakhstan, it all started in 2011, basically, when Putin first said that Kazakhstan never had any statehood. And President Nazarbayev he basically created the first Kazakh statehood.
Создал государство на территории, на которой государства не было никогда. У казахов не было государственности никогда. Он ее создал. В этом смысле он для постсоветского пространства уникальный человек.
Just outright lying, because if we had no statehood, who were your ancestors paying tribute to for almost 300 years? Some step bumps? Who were they paying tribute to? Like, do you think your ancestors, your Kievan Rus, was so primitive that it couldn't fight off some fucking dirty step bumps, disorganized people with no statehood? They couldn't do that, so they were paying for 300 years. And the step bumps, somehow they were taking notes. They were keeping the notes, like in written form even, of how much you have paid, like this time and that time. They were calculating all that stuff. Does it sound like people with no statehood? And then they had like a capital, like Sarai Batu, Sarai Berke, like those cities. Now they have been also excavated just at some point in Russia. There were those cities. They were demolished by when the Golden Horde basically was dismantled. They also lost their urgency and they were destroyed, the cities. But we still know the ruins are there, and we still know those cities existed. They were the capitals with all the administrative sort of people sitting in there and doing all the calculations, all the bureaucratic work. Does it sound like people with no statehood? But no, he just went in all the way in and just said, those Kazakhs, they never had statehood. They're practically saying to our face that we are just people with no history, really. And then after that, when they really started talking lots of shit against Kazakhstan, like with some direct threats, maybe not as bad as the threats that have been just now against Azerbaijan, but still kind of close, like really close. And one of those threats is basically, for example, like this guy, a few years ago, he's a deputy in the State Duma. He was literally said that Kazakh people are living on a rented territory. All of these territories, they belong to Russia.
Казахстан арендовал у Советского Союза территорию. В конкретном количестве этой территории. Случайным образом 100% своей территории. Но это как бы уже детали процесса. Хотите уходить, товарищ Назарбаев, Токаев, МИД? Ну, хорошо. Берите чемоданчики, отдавайте территорию, город Верный, Алмата и все остальное, и уходите. Они скажут, а у нас не остается территории, куда уйти. А мы-то здесь при чем?
Like literally the territory of Kazakhstan belongs to Russia. So all of the Kazakh people basically, effectively, were living on a rented territory, according to this prick, this stupid fuck. That's his opinion. The guy works in the State Duma. He's a deputy. Imagine that. Imagine the level of retards who are making laws in the State Duma. Okay, a prick with no knowledge of history, just nothing. Okay, just says outright bollocks, complete bullshit. And then there's also there was this guy also in the State Duma. As far as I know, he was just talking shit also, but he was like talking shit in general that we're going to have to deal with Central Asia, with all of the former republics after we deal with the Ukraine. By the way, this guy is Leo Tolstoy's grandson, basically.
Если мы не закроем тему Украины, то у нас возникнут проблемы и с Казахстаном, и с Арменией, и с другими странами, которые нас окружают.
Даже с Казахстаном, вы считаете?
Ну, конечно.
Почему?
Ну, посмотрите на то, что происходит сегодня в Казахстане в плане, так сказать, отстраивания некоего казахского государства. Какая там расцветает национальная мифология по поводу независимости, по поводу перехода на латиницу. Там очень много всего интересного.
I wonder what the great writer Leo Tolstoy would think about him now, because as far as I know, he was sort of against all these wars and Russian chauvinism. Yeah, and well, then of course you have Dugin, the retard, the real retard, like a guy who has become like a mental victim of his own retarded philosophy. He just writes books left and right, like huge freaking volumes of complete just toilet paper, really just absolute crap. I tried reading, okay. Some of this bullshit is just absolutely meaningless crap. He just really, I don't know how he just it seems like he just uses some substance and just gets into this like delirium states or whatever, and then just writes bullshit like that. A guy with pretty much no clear ideology, and of course he said, like in one of his streams, he openly said that we cannot agree to, even today, we cannot, like, meaning we, Russia, we cannot be agreeing to the sovereignty of Azerbaijan, Ukraine, Belarus, whatever, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, all of the post-Soviet republics. We cannot be agreeing to their sovereignty.
Нельзя согласиться с существованием суверенной Армении, или суверенной Грузии, или суверенного Азербайджана, суверенного Казахстана, суверенного Узбекистана, Таджикистана, Киргизстана. Ничего суверенного в этой новой модели существовать не может. И либо они будут в нашем лагере, частью нашего единого союза, либо они станут плацдармом Запада, или Евросоюза, или Америки, или при каких-то обстоятельствах Китая.
Okay, it's just talking shit all the time. It just never ends. But now, I believe now is the time to actually call them for direct responsibility, for criminal liability, really, for talking shit like that, for direct threats. You can criticize the country, but just don't be putting threats against us, okay? And there's also like these people, like this guy he said that Uzbeks or Azerbaijanis, he basically said that, these people never existed in history. Again, another stupid talk of that, Lenin created them, they never really existed. These people never existed.
Как появился Казахстан? На самом деле сначала называлась Казакская ССР, да, в составе РСФСР. То есть вообще никаких казахов не было. Например, узбеков никогда не существовало до революции. Не было такого названия этнического. Взяли, создали из нескольких среднеазиатских народов узбеков. Самое создавалось... кто такие азербайджанцы? Нет такой национальности азербайджанцев.
Like, what do you mean never existed? They just appeared in 1991 out of like a parallel dimension. They just freaking materialized. They never existed. Oh my God, they never existed. These fucks from state institutions in Russia, most of them are from the State Duma, just coming in on these stupid TV, talk shows and just talking absolute nonsense, and then just getting away with it. Okay, like we can't be allowing them to just be getting away like that. Okay, like we need to be putting a stop to all of this stuff. And that would be great for Russia itself, in my opinion, because it will sort of put them in this sort of like state where they would respect us more, and then we would have better relationships in all fronts, basically.